Hello and welcome. And today I bring you 5 tips if DBT skills aren't working for you. In this video, I will discuss 5 tips and tricks that I have learned in the 8+ years in teaching DBT to over 5,000 students in over 115 countries and counting. So whether you are new to DBT or you are well versed and looking for a little bit extra to be able to lean in a little further into learning DBT skills, this video is for you. So I work with a lot of students and do a lot of DBT coaching, and I will often hear that maybe DBT just isn't a good fit, or I'm using a specific skill and it's just not doing anything. I feel the same way 5 minutes later. I feel the same way 2 days later. I've been trying to use the skill and it's just not working. It's just not connecting. First off, even in DBT lingo, we talk about how you never fail DBT, you never fail a DBT skill. It's that the DBT skill failed you because it wasn't the right time, the right setting, or maybe the right skill for you to be using. So first off, there's no judgment. If you are like, the skill is just not cutting it and it's just not gonna cut it, we'll discuss that in a second, but that is perfectly fine. So no judgment. If after doing all of this, you're still like, this just isn't my jam, that is perfectly fine. Remember, you didn't fail DBT, the skills failed you. First up is trying the skill sooner. So if you're using skills only when you're in a crisis, or only when your anxiety or specific emotion or target behavior is at an 8 out of 10, if you're only using a DBT skill when you are about to or actively engaging in a target behavior, it's time to settle back. So try the skill sooner instead of waiting until you're fully escalated or you're like at even 7 out of 10, 8 out of 10 of, let's say, anxiety. Try using the skill when you're like a 3 or 4. When things are feeling a little uncomfortable in your body, when you're feeling slightly dysregulated, that might be a good time to try that skill. So you're not trying to take down an 8 or 10 slowly using a skill, but instead you're kind of already at maybe 3 or 4 or so, and you're kind of being able to manage it at a 3 or a 4. Maybe it doesn't get to a 0, but at least if it's at a 3 or a 4, it's probably a lot easier to manage and maybe stay at a 3 or a 4 throughout the day, which might feel comfortable for you, or more comfortable than being at a 7 or an 8 and trying to get it to a 3 or a 4. So step 1 is try the skill sooner. Next one is use the skill for longer. So if you are using a skill, whatever that skill may be, and then 5 minutes later, you're feeling crummy still, just as a heads up, you might need to give it more than 5 minutes. You might need to give it 20 minutes. You might need to use turning the mind, which we'll talk about shortly, and kind of go back over the skill again and again. Depending on the skills, some skills are longer than others. As an example, half smile is a pretty quick skill, but a lot of skills might kind of take more time. Maybe it's about, it didn't work, a couple minutes later, I'm gonna, go to like a worksheet, or I'm gonna watch a video on it, or I'm gonna spend a little bit of time listening to a 30 or 45-minute podcast, maybe understand the skill a little bit better and maybe try using it for a longer period of time. So number 2 is using the skill longer. Number 3 is practicing the skill when not in crisis. So once again, instead of waiting until you are using a target behavior, maybe even after using a target behavior, try using it when not in crisis. Now, we discussed that being at a 3 or a 4. I'm going to even pull that back even further. If you're still finding that a struggle, if you are enjoying a nice sunny Sunday and you're just hanging out and there's really nothing pressing and you're having a good or even an okay day, things are going well, try using a skill. And I know for a lot of people that seems really strange, like, I'm not escalated, I'm not dysregulated, why would you use a skill? Use a skill. Try a skill on your day off, try a skill when things are feeling okay or fine or just meh in the end. Whether it is a mindfulness skill or a distress tolerance skill, practicing the skill when you're feeling fine will make your body and make you feel more comfortable in using the skill. So when you are dysregulated, the skill comes easier in a way. That is using the skill of building mastery from A, B, C, please. So practicing the skill when you are not in crisis, when you feel perfectly fine. Number 4 is bring the focus back to using the skill, thinking about the skill itself of turning the mind. So if you are using a skill and it's not being helpful, you don't find it helpful, remembering that skill and saying like, going back to radically accept, We're going back to radically accept and just remembering to utilize it again and again. In saying that, I will often say, try not to sort of white knuckle it. If you were trying to use a skill and you're turning the mind for hours or days, it's too much. A skill should not feel so hard to use that you're white knuckling it, or that you feel that you are like exhausting yourself trying to use the skill. Because it's a sign that the skill isn't the right skill or right time or right place, or just isn't for you in this moment. And it also is exhausting. And I find a lot of people will kind of beat themselves up and judge themselves, saying like, oh, I can't get this right. Today was such a terrible day. This isn't working for me. I'm an idiot. Whatever you may call yourself as well. So use turning the mind, and also kind of use it as needed. Don't kind of push too much against the grain. So that is number 4, just bringing your focus back to the skill. And number 5 is move on and use another skill. If you find that you are using all this and you're like, I'm already doing this, Alicia, I didn't need another reminder, it's fine. That is a sign that you have tried your best to use the skill. That is not the right time, place, situation, setting, whatever it may be for you in this moment. Maybe it's time to use another skill. Maybe it is time to take a break, kind of take a nap, think on it, talk about it with your therapist. Like, feel free to also just take a step back if the skills are not working or working well for you, or feel free to be like, okay, I gave it a good go. I used all these tips and it's still not working. Maybe this is a distress tolerance skill that you need and not an emotion regulation skills, or vice versa. Find those two overlap quite a bit and trying to figure out what skill to utilize. So maybe it's using a different skill from a different module, or just picking up a skill that maybe has worked for you. Maybe it's self-soothe or something that's easier for you to come by. So those are my 5 tips if DBT skills are just not working. Number 1 is trying the skill sooner. Number 2 is using the skill for longer. Number 3 is practicing the skill when not in crisis. Number 4 is bringing your focus back to the skill, which is using the skill of turning the mind. And the last one, number 5, the last one for a reason, is if all else, move on and use another skill or take a break. Thank you for joining me today. Feel free to like and subscribe if you'd like to see more DBT content. If you have any ideas of videos that would be helpful to you, feel free to leave that in the comments. And take care and stay skillful.